All right, let's graph some single variable inequalities. Okay, so it's important that you understand these symbols. And again, we read from the left side that's over here. We read from the left to the right. So when the smaller side is on the left, then that's going to have is less than in it. When the bigger side is on the left, that's going to be is greater than. Now, I've told you guys this before, but here's how I remember whether it is an open circle or a closed circle. If you have to go to the time to draw the line underneath, then you got to go to the time to fill in the circle. Okay? If you don't have to, you can keep it as an open circle. Alright, so here you go. You can just maybe jot down these notes or take a picture of this or something. Alright, so we're going to graph n is greater than 2. So step 1, make sure your variable is alone on the left-hand side. And in this case it is. Now they want us to draw our number line. And I usually put 3 numbers on the number line. So I put the number that I'm dealing with, so this number right here, I put that in the middle. And then I draw, or I write in 2 numbers, 1 on each side of that number. Make sure you do that in the right order. If you don't, you're going to miss this problem. The next thing that I do is I decide if I need an open circle or a closed circle. And I draw that circle at the number that I'm dealing with. Now, an open circle indicates that we do not include that number in our possible solutions. Okay, so now we have to draw our arrow or our line facing in the same direction as this right here. So this points to the right. This only works when your variable's on the left-hand side though, okay? So you got to make sure that that variable is on the left-hand side. Now, what this line represents are all of your possible solutions or what n could possibly be. The open circle means don't include 2, but you do include the very tiny little decimals immediately to the right of 2. So our possible solutions are, let's say, 2.001. That's a possible solution. All the way up to positive infinity, because look, this arrow means it goes on forever. So that line and the arrow represent all the possible things that n could be. The open circle means don't use 2, but use the decimals immediately to the right, in this case, of the 2. All right, let's graph this one. So, draw your number line. Put the number you're dealing with in the middle. Don't forget we're dealing with a negative number this time, and on the negative side of the number line, these things go in the reverse order. Now I'm going to put an open circle at -4. This arrow points to the left, so will this. Again, only when your variable's on the left-hand side does that work. And there you have it. All right, let's graph this one. All right, so I've got a closed circle this time at 24, and this thing points to the right. So now the closed circle represents that we actually do use that number, that 24 can be included in the possible solutions that x could be. All right, so take a look at this one. Notice our variable is not on the left-hand side this time. So we got to get it that way. So we're going to flip everything over. So I'm going to put the x on the left. I'm going to put the -15 on the right this time. And see how the little pointy end is pointing towards the x? We got to make sure that it's still pointing in that direction. So when you flip everything around, don't forget to flip your sign around as well. going to use a closed circle at negative 15, and this thing is going to point to the left. When I am using a pencil to do this, my graph tends to look like this, because with a pencil, it's so hard to tell where your line is. So usually what I do whenever I'm using a pencil is I'll still do a darkened circle in this case, but instead of staying on the number line, I usually go above the number line. You could go below as well, I guess. But that way it's just a little more clear where your line is. It's just a little trick I do. Okay, so this is really something that's important whenever you're dealing with inequalities. If you ever have to divide or multiply by a negative number, you must flip your inequality sign. Here's why. Okay, remember we've talked about the rules before, about how you're allowed to multiply both sides of an equation or an inequality by the same non-zero number? Okay, so if I have, let's say, 2 and 4, which one is bigger? Well, 4 is bigger. So this right here is a true statement. So watch this. If I multiply by the number 3 on the left, if I multiply by the number 3 on the right, 3 times 2 is 6, 4 times 3 is 12, and look, 12 is still bigger. So I have the alligator mouth eating the bigger number. But watch this. So I have 2 and 4. We still agree that 4 is bigger. But what if this time I multiply by negative 3? I get negative 6, and I get negative 12 this time. And look, negative 6 is now bigger than negative 12. So when you divide or multiply by a negative number, you have to flip your inequality symbol. And this could have been negative 1, it could have been negative 100, it doesn't matter. If you multiply or divide by a negative number, you have to flip your sign. Alright, so check this out. So I've got negative 5 is greater than or equal to 5. So I am going to divide both sides by negative 1 to get that negative sign away from the variable. I did just divide by a negative number, so I have to flip my inequality symbol. Alright, so now there's our number line. I'm going to put a closed circle at negative 5, and now it points to the left. Alright, so now this one is just going to be we're going to be doing just a lot of flipping with this. First of all, I usually like to start with getting my variable by itself. Oops, sorry. Alright, so I would divide both sides by negative 1. So I get negative 9. Don't forget, we did just flip we just divided by a negative number, so we have to flip our inequality symbol. Now, I don't want to graph this until my variable is on the left. So now I'm going to flip everything over again. And this is what I'm going to graph. And so I want a closed circle at negative 9, and I want this thing to point to the left. There we go. Okay, so now I want to write the inequality statement that goes with this. It's so much easier to do when you keep your variable on the left, so I'm going to write x. You could use any letter you want. I do have a closed-in circle here, so I'm going to write greater than or equal to, and then that dot is at 5, so it's going to go right there. There we go. This is the inequality that goes along with this graph. Alright, so that's it for this lesson. Hope you have a nice time doing your homework, and send me a message if you have any problems.